This is JPar, and welcome to the first ever We Promise Comics episode. With me today, and hopefully for many more episodes, will be comic book correspondent Scotty. Now, today we are going to be talking about Old Man Logan, and Scotty's got a few points of reference, some stuff to tell us about it. But first, say hello to the crowd, Scott.
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be on the show.
She's been bugging me quite a while to get on the show and even do something like this. So, and this is like going to give us a good chance to kind of review story arcs in comics, and it's going to be really interesting. So I hope you can, kind of inform me and maybe even the audience listening about some things that we might not know about comics or some great stories that we should check out.
Yeah, when I thought about coming onto the show and I thought about the idea of doing comics, I thought that I would like to just showcase books that I think are must-reads or books that I would recommend to people just getting into comics or that want to get back into comics. And this book is one of those books. It's called Wolverine, Old Man Logan. It's written by Mark Millar, and it's drawn by Steve McNevin. Millar's also known for the Kick-Ass series, which they did turn into a film, and it was a big success. He also worked on...
two movies. Two Kick-Ass.
Yeah, 2 movies. The sequel was not critically acclaimed as much as the first one, but was still enjoyable. He also did Civil War, which is another great book, and I recommend that book to people.
That will soon be a movie in the Captain America 3 is going to be based on the Civil War story.
Yes, that's what we hear, and that's even the name of it that they've released now. How close to the actual story it will be, we'll have to see.
Well, we know it'll be Tony versus Steve, Steven Rogers. Iron Man versus Captain America. We know that much at least.
Well, we don't really know that necessarily for sure, but I would put money on it. I mean, we already got the characters, and that's what it's based on. But really, they haven't really told us anything for sure.
Yeah, they have. I've seen the teaser trailer. I've seen it leaked.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I never saw that. Well, anyways, back to this book. So Millar is obviously a talented writer and brings a lot to the comic world. I mean, they've taken his stories and made them into movies, so that's very good. Steve McNevin also worked with him on Civil War, and McNevin's art is it's outstanding. It's really, really great, and it makes the book that much better. He's also Canadian. He's a Canadian artist. He also did recently, well, not too recently, I think it was it's about four years ago, he did Deadpool Annual. And Deadpool's another one of my favorite characters, so I just found that out. I'm going to check that series out.
And it's definitely a dark, gritty style. I'm just looking at this cover right here of Wolverine fighting Sabretooth and Omega Red, and of course looking at another cover here, just bullet holes in Old Man Logan, and a great gritty style to go with Mark Millar's style of writing, which is also dark and gritty.
Yeah, Millar's definitely a violent writer. Civil War, even for that...
Even though it's based on, it's in the main continuity of the Marvel Universe.
Goliath
or
died.
the original continuity, I should say, because they changed it.
Yeah.
And it has, Iron Man and Spider-Man and all the favorites and Captain America and all that. So you're right, even for that style of story, I mean, not all the time Marvel...
Goliath dies in that book.
Okay, Goliath, right.
So he always has a lot of
Goliath
violence.
Again?
Goliath, basically is... I don't know a whole lot about his character. What I do know is that he basically has the same powers as Ant-Man, so he can grow really big.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't want to dwell on that too much, but what I'm saying is that Millar is writing even in the stuff that is supposed to be not as violent, he gets his violence in there. Right. So when they let him go free, he makes books like Kick-Ass, which is ultra-violent. So, and this book here is I would say it's ultra-violent too. I wouldn't recommend it to young readers. I would definitely recommend it to a mature audience, 16 and up. So, and mostly that's how Wolverine is really in the comics and always has been.
And Mark Millar's done many great stories for Punisher and Wolverine before.
Oh, yes, right on.
And what are some of the other titles that he's worked on? Do you have any other lists there? Any more comics?
Any more comics that Millar has worked on?
Yeah.
Well, he did Hit Girl, which
Yeah,
was a
right.
spin-off.
Which spin off of Kick-Ass.
Yeah,
And they kind of incorporated that for the second movie kind of thing. I think some of the material from that.
he did one called War Heroes as well that I read, and I got 2 books out of it, and it was different, and I didn't really enjoy it as much. I mean, the ultra-violent stuff is good, but I don't need it all the time. This book is very good, though, and it does it very well. It has a very good balance of it because it tells a really great story. So I do highly recommend this book. And McNevin is a brilliant artist, and you can look at it and really enjoy it.
So more about the story now. You want to tell us a bit about the story without maybe telling too much?
I'll tell you about this book and a little bit about the storyline. It's been 30 years since all the heroes were killed by the villains. And Wolverine has left the cause and given in, and he's living on the Hulk's territory. The United States has been split into 4 different territories. Doctor Doom, Red Skull, and the Hulks, and Kingpin. So yeah, there's 4 there. So what happens is he's living on with his family, and he's paying rent to the Hulks. And then the Hulks they come looking for money for his rent, and he doesn't have the money, and he has a certain amount of time to get it. And then Hawkeye shows up, and Hawkeye's been blinded from the war. And they basically get together, and they go on this mission.
The only good thing that Hawkeye is for, which is like shooting arrows, using his eyes, now he doesn't even have. So now he's even more useless. He has no powers. He can't shoot his bow. What do they call him? They can't call him Deadeye because that's already a character.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And I think it was really a symbol of how much the heroes have lost,
Right.
We're left with a character who basically had no
So we do have a hero who's still alive,
but he also now doesn't even have the thing that he was good at. So
Which
he's
is
really
his
giving us
Hawkeyes.
nothing. So we got Hawkeye and we got Wolverine, who has got lots of powers and is invincible. He could be lots of things can happen to him.
The main thing that Wolverine is known for is using his claws. And that's another thing in this story. Wolverine does not want to pop his claws out.
Yes, exactly. He doesn't want to pop his claws, and basically Hawkeye's trying to get him to. And Hawkeye gets him to come on this mission that he's going to pay him money for to save Hawkeye's daughter. And then basically it goes through, and then as the story's going along, it tells you little mini stories about what happened to other characters after this big war. I don't want to talk much more about the story without giving that would give it away. So all I gotta say is it's a really great book, and I highly recommend it. The Dark Knight Returns is probably the best book that I ever read as far as comics go. And once again, it's a story of Bruce Wayne, and he's old, he's past his prime, but crime hasn't stopped, and he's got to come back. And that's what this story basically is. It's Wolverine, he's old, he's worn, but now he's got to come back. And Hawkeye is trying to get him to come back. And to me, it's a really great story. And I highly recommend it. And that's pretty much all I got to say about it without giving away too much.
Okay, and definitely don't be too surprised when you're looking at this and you see dead heroes on the cover or even a part of the story. That's very much a part of the story because it's in the future. And Miller's, and it's almost like a what if. It's not like a real. It's not necessarily a part of the main continuity.
No, it is like a what if.
Yeah, it is like a what if. But we see that done a lot in Marvel Comics nowadays.
Just the whole storylines, and they've gone back and explained the time problem. These characters have been around since 1967, and Peter Parker is still in his mid-20s, So,
is he?
Well, whatever he is.
Is that one time they were letting him get older? He was getting married to Mary Jane. They were having a kid. Yeah. And they just pulled the plug on all of that. And they're just nope, we got to send Peter Parker back to
Well, they always rewrite the stories. And that's the way they
and
go. And that's how it's done because you can't keep a timeline. Because you're always changing with the technology and stuff. You can't say Peter Parker was writing on a typewriter when he got bit by a radioactive spider. Now he's on an iPhone. So, you got to not dwell in that too much or it's going to ruin the story for you. And that's why I do enjoy one-shots. Yeah. And that's why I also enjoy these older stories because these characters have been around for a long time and they do deserve the story told of when they're old.
Now,
that's more of the end.
This is a fairly long-running series, though, Old Man Logan. I'm seeing, issue 70, 71 here. But this is near the end of the stretch of this comic, right?
I'm not entirely sure.
Or is it's the Old Man Logan storyline and it says Wolverine, so is it a part of the Wolverine series?
Yeah, it was a part of the Wolverine
so it's like
series.
Wolverine number 70, 71.
It built up to the annual, I believe.
And it's just that Old Man Logan storyline. I get it. So this is a great series. I was supposed to read it, but I kind of cheated a little bit. Skimmed through it, and yes, Scotty helped me with the parts that he needed to fill in for me.
Do you think you're going to read it now?
I think I will. I mean, I wanted to read it. I just didn't. I've been busy. Sorry.
Yeah, take my recommendation.
Mm-hmm. And then I can come back and be like, hey, next week, and be like, or not next week, whenever we do this again.
I'll give it a rating out of 10 too. That's actually one thing that I didn't do.
Okay. So how many claws do you give it?
8 claws out of 10.
8 claws out of 10 claws. So it's like a shink, 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 shink.
That's correct.
Or is it snicked?
It's shink and snit, I think.
Yeah, I think it's snicked. I think it's more like snickety snicky, bitches. Like snickety snickety. I love. It's funny. Do you think like Marvel owns those sounds like thwip and? Obviously, they don't own BAMF. Everyone says BAMF nowadays, and I want to clarify for you youngins, BAMF does not mean badass motherfucker, because that's just the sound that happens every time Nightcrawler teleports. That's what BAMF is. And it always has been, so stop trying to make it something else.
I would have to look at the copyright laws.
I don't think they might not own those sounds, but they almost...
I don't think they could.
But those are the trademark sounds when you're reading, like, Wolverine's claws are snicked. And like Spider-Man's webbing is thwip, and Nightcrawler's bamf for his teleport.
I know that Stan Lee tried to sue DC for using X.
Really?
X, yeah. In front of they had a I don't know. I'm not sure if it was DC, but it was definitely another comic book company. They put the word X in front of their name. There was something like X Team or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And
well,
he tried to sue them and tried to basically tell them that he owned the letter X, but he failed.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Well, everyone must have just saw that as a knockoff to X-Men anyways, so... Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to look up exactly what it was. It wasn't X Team. It wasn't that blatantly obvious. It was just in front of something else. I'd have to look it up. But that just when you bring up copyright laws, I remember that I read that at one point that Stan Lee tried to sue over the letter X.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so we got a few more minutes
left. I love
left.
Stan, but it's just a funny
love
thing.
Stan Lee.
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the greatest comic book writer minds out there. He helped create so many great heroes.
Businessman at some point.
He tried to. He said I think someone asked him if he was compare himself to one of the characters in the Marvel universe, who he'd be, and I think he was talking to Kevin Smith actually, and he said he would be J. Jonah Jameson because he sees himself as that cranky old businessman or whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you're like watching an interview with Stan Lee, and he just seems like he's the most gentle old soul you ever. Like, he's so eccentric. Like, I just love listening to him talk. Like, in interviews, he talks with such excitement, and he's, like, passionate about what he's talking about, you know?
A lot of charisma.
Definitely does have a lot of charisma. You know what? And that's something maybe we can talk a little bit more next time. Maybe, like, the history of Stan Lee and stuff like that. That would be something that would be very cool.
I would recommend to the listeners that they look up on YouTube right now Bob Kane and Stan Lee interview, and it's a really good interview. Bob Kane created Batman and many other great characters, and Stan Lee created, of course, the entire Marvel universe, and it's really interesting to watch these two together, and I recommend that interview.
Alright everybody, if you like what you hear, us talking about comics, then please like, share, and subscribe. This is JPar signing out.
And this is Scotty. Until next time, take care.
Peace!